you and I both have suffered from major gut health, digestive issues. I feel like I was way ahead of everybody else on the leaky gut and gut issues because I would sit at a restaurant bloated and uncomfortable, and all of my friends were still fine. Whereas nowadays, I would say most people have some sort of gut issues.
Hmm.
And there's that leaky gut, there's the mucus layer that is compromised. You've got people taking probiotics that could be actually backfiring. So let's talk about butyrate and
Yeah.
how it relates to probiotics, prebiotics, and now we've got the postbiotics.
I like to say it this way. If you think about a plant, the prebiotics are the sun and water, that's the food for the plant. The actual plant is your probiotic. The byproduct of the plant, the fruits, vegetables, and flowers, that's postbiotics. That's what butyrate is. It's very simple. And what happens in our bodies is we are living in such a state of gut dysbiosis that many people are not aware of, but that's driving their bloating, their irregularity, so many of their health issues. And we're not producing enough of those byproducts, right? So we're not feeding our body the right foods, and we're not getting enough resistant starches and dietary fibers. And then we're lacking the keystone strains that have been wiped out by antibiotic use or pesticides or so many different things that we're exposed to. And so our guts are just in this state of kind of disarray, and butyrate as a postbiotic supplement really comes in to help decrease the inflammation, create a better home environment so that we can start to get back those keystone strains of bacteria, and we can start to think about the foods that we're feeding our gut so that we can prevent this leaky gut SIBO state that so many people end up in. Our gut houses our immune system. And so when we don't take care of it, the rest of our body fails us as well. And so it's a really important part of the body bio protocol. What's really fascinating about butyrate as a postbiotic is it also works at the cellular level. It plays a very important role in our cells as something called a chemical chaperone, and it helps to break down these toxins that embed themselves in our cells. And so it's part of the body bio world for that reason. But what's really interesting is because of the rise of gut health issues, because in the 1990s, it was so different than it is even today, this has become one of our, if not our most popular product.
Yes. And now in the world of the spike protein, histamines have become much more rampant
Yes.
with people that have not even had histamine issues or allergies ever in their life. And I'm one of those people where I'm seeing a histamine issue and I'm having to take supplements. I take the HistaHarmony for that, but also butyrate helps stabilize and moderate the
Mast
histamine
cells.
response,
Yeah,
correct?
it does. Yeah. So it degranulates mast cells. And so it's really it's a huge help there. It's not something that you will necessarily feel right away, but over time of taking butyrate, it's absolutely going to help with those histamine issues.
And it helps with the metabolic health. It helps with insulin resistance. Can you explain how that works?
Sure. So butyrate is a natural GLP-1 agonist. So it's naturally going to increase GLP-1 production
Wait,
in the gut.
you mean you don't have to go out and get $1,000 shot? Is that what you're telling me?
It's another Band-Aid, right? It's another Band-Aid for the larger problem. And so butyrate is going to look at the larger problems and get more into what's going on at the root and how do we fix it from the root. Let's not just pack a Band-Aid on it. And so butyrate is going to help increase GLP-1. It helps to regulate blood sugar. So when taken after a meal, if I cheat, if I eat a little something after a meal, I always take butyrate. I often take butyrate with me when I eat in restaurants because it helps to break down the very long chain fats that happen when you're exposed to seed oils, rancid seed oils.
Mhm.
And so butyrate is just this awesome metabolic health supplement that also works for the gut. And so it sounds a little bit like snake oil because it sounds like something that does so much for so many of us. But the problem is this, again, is a biological substrate that's made in the body when the body has the right environment and the right foods to do it. We're just not providing our body with that. And so if you want to increase your butyrate production naturally, you can work on doing the type of gut health tests that I'm sure you and I do very frequently. Take a look at what keystone strains that you're missing, supplement potentially with those specific strains of probiotics. Don't just supplement with a general probiotic. And then eat resistant starches such as plantains, green bananas, which I find very difficult to actually eat. Like when I try to make my kids eat a very green banana, they're like, your mouth gets stuck. But there are ways that you can incorporate them into smoothies and things. Cooled and cooked rice, cooled and cooked potatoes are also sources of resistant starch. But in general, not many of us are eating enough fiber, and we should increase our fiber intake to increase the natural butyrate production. For me, it's just easier to take a butyrate supplement.
So you talk about the foods to get your butyrate from, and we're talking about the fact that most people eat only 30% of their diet from real food. Are they really going to use that
No.
30% with cold potatoes? So that's it. That's the problem, is our diet is not giving us what we need. And that's where supplementation is needed. In our soils, I mean, it goes for the nutrients that we're trying to get. That's why supplementation is needed for just nutrients, is because our soils are so depleted. We're not getting what we used to get.
Exactly.
Um, what I like to use is I like to use the Megaspore Biotic,
Hmm.
which goes down in there and it wakes up and gives you what you need to give that diversity down there. And the Mega Pre feeds that. And then
Okay.
you've got the postbiotic from the butyrate. And so I've got here the sodium butyrate and the CalMag. And
Yep.
so two different options.
Yep.
Can you tell us the difference? Why would we choose one or the other? And you mentioned when you take it, do you actually take it with a meal, or can you take it fasted? Is there a benefit to that?
I
Or would
like
you
to
take
take
it
it
after?
after
Okay.
you're going to get the most benefits. You can take it fasted, but if you're somebody who leans towards some upper GI issues and stomach issues, you can also potentially get a little acid reflux from it. Butyrate is very acidic. And so we use the minerals to buffer the acidity. And so that CalMag or the sodium are used to actually buffer the acidity of the actual butyrate. And so it really does not matter which one you take. We created originally 3 different versions. There was another version. But remember, Body Bio started as a professional supplement brand and we only sold to doctors. So that was what the doctors had requested at that time. And then the doctor was able to pick which one they wanted the patient on, depending on their health. The form that is produced naturally in the body is sodium. So that's the form we tell people typically to start with. If you are concerned with sodium hypertension, you can do CalMag. The other thing to consider is when you have ample levels of sodium butyrate in general, you will make more BHB, beta hydroxybutyrate, from the liver. And so it will help in the downstream metabolites to actually create more BHB in the body.